resources. Hey, hey. They had refused to give me a mic to sing. This is my time. I won't name them. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Worship Harvest, Worship Resources, and we're having fun as we go. We are also having very many learning experiences right from here in studio. So I bring you greetings from the guys here in studio. They say hello. And yeah. You see, there's the first take, the second take, then there's the 20th take. And I won't tell you which take this is. Just know that we are having fun and everything is going so well. So welcome. Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. This is a Worship Harvest music channel. And thank you for also giving us comments in the comments section, giving us some feedback and some help tools. You know, now I think we are having a better setup, you know, because of what you are telling us and, you know, and just showing us how better we can, you know, have this. How many times have I said, you know? Have you counted? Yeah, all right. That's so good. Today I want to show you something, and in one of the videos I was showing you something to do with the major scale. I want to take it a little further from here and show you the triad. Yeah, the triad. It's something to do with chords. Yes, chords. I want to keep this language as simple as possible. But if we say chords, ideally what you're trying to do is playing notes together that make a harmonious sound. Harmonious. For example, sounds different from. That sounds nice. Jethro, please note this. I send greetings to all my musician friends out there. All right? So that sounds different from whatever it was, okay? So we're trying to dig a little further into how do you beautify the music that you're playing. And of course, we beautify the music by playing chords, right? Okay, that's why you don't have only one singer. When you have a multitude of singers, you want to have what they call harmony, okay? Something that harmonizes the melody. It's the beauty of the melody, adding color to the melody. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to delve into today. All right, are you ready? What? Are you ready? Oh, yes. Okay, that's good. Okay, so a quick recap on the major scale. Remember we said that there were 7 notes. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and do at the top. Do is the 8th, the do at the top is the 8th note. It completes the scale because you want to hear a complete sound. I think it's what they called once a perfect cadence. Whew, I felt that. Okay, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So that do at the top is giving you that perfect sound, that sound of completion. Okay, and so you have it. I've put them in ascending order just to show you that the notes are ascending in sound. Okay, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do at the top. Okay, and that's why I was saying that there were 7, but the 8th note is kind of completing this, and then you start again at the top to go. It keeps going up, and you know, or maybe down all the way. Okay, now remember I was showing you that there are steps, okay? That's a whole step. There's a note that we skip here. That's a whole step. There's a note that we skip here. So from the do to the re, re to the mi, those are 2 whole steps. Then the mi to the fa is a half step. From the fa to the so is a whole step. So to la is a whole step. La to ti is a whole step. And then at the end, ti to do, back to do is a half step. So you have something like this. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Are you following? I love it so much. Okay, so now what happens at this point is that we can use the numbering system where you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to write them right here. 1, 2, 3, okay, all right, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, 8 and 1 are the same, okay? Now, you could also call these positions where you have do at the first position or the root position, then you have re, the 2, which is above the do. So we can call it, this is the root position, that's the second position, the third position, the mediant. Then you have the fourth position, the fifth position. So the sixth position is the la, the seventh position is the seventh, is the T, okay? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, sorry. There are some voices behind me in studio. Shh. So you have these as positions, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. Okay, so if I'm to take it from this and just flip over, I hope you are able to see that at the bottom. I'm just going to call these chords right from the skeleton of it, and to show you that if you're going to come up with a chord, you need 3 positions, okay? The root, the third, and the fifth. It's like every chord that you've heard of has these 3 positions. The root, the third, the fifth, okay? 1, 2, so it's 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, okay? Those 3 positions, the root position, the third, and the fifth. Actually, let me, to keep them in terms of position, I'll use exactly that. The first, the third, and the fifth, or the root, the third, and the fifth. I will keep interchanging between the root and the first, because the first is the root. Woo! That could preach right there. My goodness. The root, the third, and the fifth. Okay. All right, so once you have these 3 positions, the next thing to ask is, what are the types of, because what we're dealing with here are triads. There are 3. So I'll put it right here in the corner. These are triads. Okay. The next thing that you're going to be asking yourself is, what are the types of triads? We have 4 types of triads. The first is the major triad. The major triad. The major triad is made up of exactly the 3 notes. And I'm going to use, let me use red, it stands out. So you have the root, the first position, the third, and the fifth, okay? Which also means it's the do, the mi, and the so, okay? And I'm also going to use, the key of C as an example, which is C, E, and G, okay? C, E, and G. So that's it. That's the major triad. It's called the major triad. The major triad. The major triad. Okay, that's the first type of triad we are dealing with here. Okay, I'm going to show you in other spaces where we could easily use this. So this is a major triad. Okay, now the major triad can sound another way when we change the voicing, meaning that we are going to invert. So where you have the root at the bottom, just simply take that root position up, and then you start with the third, the fifth, and then the root at the top, or the first. So this is what we are calling the first inversion. So there's the root, then there's the first inversion where you take the root above. Okay, I'm just going to align this. I'm going to play with this right here. Okay, and I'm just going to put this back there so that you have the third, fifth, and then the root at the top. Okay, third, fifth, and root. Okay, that's the first inversion. And then you will have an instance where you have the fifth, the root, and the third at the top. Okay, that's what we're going to call the second inversion. So it's the same chord, but it's beginning to sound different. Why? Because we are interchanging the notes where you're starting from. So you have that. A little later on, we will work on a video where we can compare this to singing, okay? Because it's almost the same language. You know, you have the singers almost stand out like it's a chord when you have the sopranos, the altos, and the tenors. So the sopranos take the top note. Imagine that the sopranos were up, and the altos would go right below that, and the tenors would go, and there you have a choir singing that triad, the major triad, and this is exactly where we're starting to harmonize from. Okay, so it's a very interesting concept. Yeah, if you look at it nicely, you begin to see so many things that are coming together. Yeah, you're dealing with the chords in terms of what you're going to accompany the melody, but again, it's the same thing that you deal with when it's a harmony of what the singers are harmonizing to the melody. All right, this is beautiful already. So we've already talked about the major triad as the first type of triad, and we've also talked about how to interchange, yeah, how to invert, how to invert the same chord. It's beginning to sound different. All right, let's move on to the next type of triad, and we are going to call this the minor triad. Minor and major. A quick understanding between minor and major is really happy. But then you start having something like stop crying, I see you, stop it. Okay, that's really what it's just like music has an emotion it always gives. And so the minor is what you'd use to give that, moody feeling. And then the major is what you'd use to give something bright. Okay. All right. So then it would look something like this. You have the root. Now you have the minor third. And then you have the fifth. Okay, meaning that when instead of a major, you're going to take down the major by a half step into the minor. You hear that? Major was, now minor is. That's the minor triad right there. We have taken down the major third a half step to become the minor third. All right. And then other melodies come along. Okay, so that's the minor triad right there. And if I'm to give it to you with solfas, that would be a do, that would be a mi flat, and that would be a so. If we're using the example of C, that would be C, that would be E flat and G. All right, and in the same way, we can invert the sound to make it sound different, okay? Okay, so that's the same chord, but we're just playing with the placing of the same notes and seeing what should come first. All right, let's move over to so these are two. I'm just going to flip this over real quick and show you the augmented. Now these are like special kind of triads. There are two. Augmented triad, okay, and this one has the root, it has the major third. So for major we always use capital, for minor we use the small. So capital M, small m, capital M for major, small m for minor. Yeah, you know how you've heard of majoring in the majors and minoring in the minors? That's what I'm talking about. All right, so that's the major third. Now inside of the fifth, we're going to have an augmented fifth, okay? So that the third stays in its natural state. Now instead of playing the fifth as the fifth, we play it as a sharp. We add a half step to the fifth. I'm feeling it already where I am. So I don't know if you've had something like this. It has that ascending kind of vibe. For your goodness and kindness it has a way of lifting your spirit. Woo! I felt that. So if you want to lift someone up, if you want to send them a song you have written, add some augmented notes. Woo-hoo! I felt that right there. Oh yes. So if we're talking solfas, it would look a little like this: a do, a mi, and a so sharp. Okay. In the example of C, it would be, let's use blue right there. C, this is E, and then that's going to be a G sharp. All right, and in the same way, you can always invert the same chord. These are very good exercises to have to just practice. Yeah. It's just good to have these are really, really good when you're trying to find your bearings on the piano. You just keep playing with the different forms. Okay, I think I'm ready to take you to the fourth. Finally, the fourth type of triad is The diminished, oh yes, the diminished triad. Ish. Diminished triad. Mercy, Lord. Mercy. Mercy. The diminished triad. Okay. So on this one, you have the root, the minor third. You're going to have two like minor kind of notes. You have the root, the minor third, and the diminished dim fifth. Okay? So minor is subtraction, diminished is subtraction, augmented is addition. I know you will not forget that. Oh no, that's not possible. Okay? So this is the root. Oh, this is the do actually. The do, the mi flat, and the so flat. Stay with me. You're going to enjoy this when it's all coming together. The do, the mi flat, and the so flat. Okay. So you have where you have the major, the minor. Now this is going to be the diminished where you are also taking down the fifth. Okay, so this is a type of diminished. I'll show you where it comes in. So you have the root position, it remains there. You have the minor third and the diminished fifth. So we won't call it a minor fifth, we'll call it a diminished fifth. Okay, right. And in the example of C, it's going to be a C and E flat and G flat. All right, so those are the four types of triads. There are the four types of triads. What I'm going to introduce to you right now, just to put it together, just going to quickly run back to the beginning. I showed you the 7 notes of the major scale, okay? And then I showed you a little bit of where we're starting from now, the chords, the structure of chords, how the chords come in. So I just showed you that you need 3 positions for you to start working out chords in the same way like you'd work out harmonies, where the soprano, the altos, and the tenors are. If the sopranos are up on the do, the altos are going to be below that on the sol, and the tenors are going to be below that on the mi. Okay? Again, the harmonies are also built on the same positions. Okay? And then we had 4 types of triads, which is the major triad, the root, the major third, and the fifth. The root, the third, and the fifth. Then we have the minor triad, which is the root, the minor third, and the fifth. And then we had the augmented triad, which is the root, the major third, and the augmented fifth. And then we had the diminished, which is the root, the minor third, and the diminished fifth. How then do we start using this information? You're like, yo, Mint, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, but excuse you, how do you use all this stuff? Yeah, let me introduce you to something called the diatonic triads. The diatonic triads. There are 7, so I'm going to call them the 7 diatonic triads. All right. And this is where you start to sort of piece everything together that I'm giving you here. Diatonic triads. Okay. So what are diatonic triads? The diatonic triads are the 7 special triads played along the major scale using the scale's notes. 7 special triads. Let me summarize it like this. One is that there are 7 triads. Okay. 2 is that they are played, you play them along the major scale. I'll just put MS there. Played along the major scale. And the third thing is that you have to using the major scale itself. So you don't use anything else but the major scale. Okay? So you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. If that was your melody, if your melody was do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, what harmony would you use? And it would sound something like this. Oh. Something like that. So, of course, you're asking me, what did you just play? Take it back, take it back. Now play again. Okay, sorry. Let me explain. So what we're doing is we're just using the information we've learned. We've said that there are 4 types of triads. There's the major triad, the minor triad, the augmented triad, and the diminished triad. And how would you use them? This is the first point of using these triads. And I'm calling it the diatonic triads, which is playing the triads. What triad would you play along the major scale? When you say at the do, what's the right triad to play there? When you say it's a re, what's the right triad to play there? What triad would you play at the mi? What triad would you play at the fa? What triad would you play at the sol? What triad would you play at the la? What triad would you play at the ti? What triad would you play at the do, the top? What triad would you play at the 1? What triad would you play at the 2? What triad would you play at the 3? What triad would you play at the 4? What triad would you play at the 5? What triad would you play at the 6? What triad would you play at the 7? What triad would you play at the 8? And that's what I want to show you. The 7 diatonic triads. Woo! And this is going to be, how do I show it to you on this? I feel like I've already filled up this page. But let me try. Now, again, I want you to note that there are 3 positions we're talking about. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about triads. Think about that. So you need the root position, you need the 3rd, and you need the 5th. You need these 3 positions all the time, okay? And then along the major scale means, what shall we play at the do? What shall we play at the re? Aye. What shall we play at the mi? Aye. What shall we play at the fa? What shall we play at the so? So I think this is becoming too low. So I'm going to take these first 3, then I'll flip over and show you the rest. Okay, so already at the do, we're going to play the major triad, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. Here is why. Because it just works out perfectly. Remember that we said that there's a major, minor, augmented, and diminished. So if we were using the major scales notes, which ones would we use? Okay, it fits perfectly, okay, because we need the triad that would play at that position. Okay, now let's go to the next one, because then it can easily bring us back to the first one. So at the root, it just works out perfectly. We play the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. How about at the re? What would we use? If we were using the major scales notes, that's very important. So you have the root position. The root position is going to remain the same because you always have to have the root of the chord, okay? So now the root of the chord we are naming is at the re, okay? So before what? The do. Now our root is going to move to the re. Hey, the root is now moving to the re, the root of the chord we are playing. But remember that we are using the major scales notes. The major scales notes are do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. That's the major scales notes. That means that at the re position, we would have to choose the notes of that scale for the chord to make sense. I felt that. Okay, so it is, imagine we're starting to play the major scale from the second position. So at the first position we played do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. At the second position we would start re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re. Yeah. So that means that the notes we'll be choosing should be, one is the root. The second one should have, of course, a 3 in it. So we're going to have to count. That's the third position right there. Okay? Now you're asking me, at this point, for those who have been counting, because the other way to do it is to count. Like you have a whole step there and then a whole step there. Da, da, da. But then when you get here, okay, now you have introduced a note which is not in our scale, because the scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. That note is not in the scale we're using, meaning that now we have to invert this and introduce we have to bring that third back down here so that we can use the major scales notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So we say it again, if you're playing that scale, starting with the re, mi, fa, would play the fa right there. We wouldn't be playing anything else but that, because now that's what we're using in the major scales notes. Okay, so that will become a re minor third and what would be the la. Okay, so of course here this is the fifth. Now I need to bring this home nicely. So let me play the scale on the side here, where you have the do, the mi, and the so. Whereas here we played the re, and in this position we played the fa, and in this position we played the la. Okay, so we started with the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now we have the re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. Now at that point, the re point, we are going to play a minor chord, not a major but a minor. Okay, so here we played a major. Now we are playing a minor at the re position. How about at the mi position? You see, it sort of starts correcting itself every time. Every time you have the root, okay, which is now the mi. So we played the chord at the do, we played the chord at the re, we played the chord at the mi. Now we're going to find the chord at the mi. We need the root position again. Now, is it going to be a major or a minor at this position? Let's play the scale starting with the mi. So again, back to the scale, the starting point, the original starting point, which is the do here, right here. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. And the mi, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi. So that's where we're starting from. What chord do we play at this point? At this point, we said you play the major. At the second point, we said you play the minor. Now, at the mi point, what are we playing? Okay, that's what we're working out right now. So you have the root position, okay? Then you're going to work yourself up to the third position now, which is that. So why is it that position? Because if we were working it out originally by counting, we would need to have 2 whole steps, which is 1 from there, whole step to that, and then whole step to that. Those are the 2 whole steps from if we're starting from the mi position here. But then we need to make it a minor. Why? The third position is not on the scales note. Yes, and so we'd have a minor right there. So it is fifth position. So you have the root, the third position, and the fifth position. Get that? Back to the root note, the original place, the do place, do, re, mi, fa, sol. At the re point, minor, then that's the minor point, the minor position of the mi. Okay, so at the mi, we are playing a minor third. I know you can always keep taking this. That's the beauty about video. You can always keep taking it back to hear the explanation. So this is the mi. We play the mi. So ti. All right. So do, mi, so, re, fa, la, mi, so, ti. Do, mi, so, re, fa, la, mi, so, ti. Ah, I love it. So I'm going to flip this page over real quick so that I can then show you the rest of them. We're almost there. We're almost halfway. All right, so we started from the top. Just to show us, I'll use a red point here that we needed 3 positions. We need the third, the root, the third, and the fifth positions. This is like the base of everything, okay? And now we are at the fa. I'll use another color for that. We are at the fa position. What do we play at the fa position? Let me flip back, just look at my colors. Okay, that was black. Put here the small m. Okay. So we have the major, we have a minor, we have a minor. Major, minor, minor. How about here? What do we play? We need the root. We need the third. Is it a minor? Is it a major? What do we play here? If it makes sense right there, we're going to keep it. Okay, so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. Mi. I told you that we needed to keep the scales notes. That's why I keep playing them. Mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi. Now the fa is where we are. Fa, sol, la, ti, do. The third position from here, from the fourth, from the fa, fa, sol, la. See that? Did you see that? So it's already playing itself out really well, because for it you don't have to change anything. If we are to do the counting, that's a whole step, and that's a whole step. From the fa to the sol is a whole step. From the sol to the la is a whole step. Okay? So you end up with the major third right there. Okay? If I'm taking you back to the beginning, do, re, mi, where that major third was, okay? We had a whole step and a whole step. If we come to the fa, the fourth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth position, we have a whole step and then we have a whole step. Okay? Fa, sol, la. Right there, those two whole steps. That gives us a major third. Okay? Meaning that at the fourth position, we are playing a major third. We are playing a major third. So that's a major third, and that's a fifth right there. Third. What we played back there, I think I used black, was the fa, the la, and the do. Woo! We're almost there. We're almost there. How about the sol? I have the sol, la, and the ti, and we'll be done. Almost there. Almost there. So again, we're going to need a root position here at the sol, and we're just going to play the scale from there. So, do, re, mi, fa, sol. What happens from the sol? Sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol. So we're going to have to start counting from here. So count up a whole tone, and then count up a whole tone. Okay? And right there, we're landing on a T. We don't have to correct anything. It just works perfectly. So you realize that we corrected at the re position, the 2 position. We also corrected at the mi position. But then at the 5th position, we're not correcting anything because it's just playing out perfectly, okay? So you have the root of that chord, then you have the la, and the T right there, the T. It's not tea time yet, but it's the T. And then you have the do and then the re at the top. Okay, sol, ti, re, sol, ti, re. So here we keep the major third. And then we have the 5th position. The 5th position hasn't changed so far. They're all working out. It's all really a counting game. Okay, so we had a sol here, a ti, and a re. Okay, the mathematicians are really enjoying this. I'll tell you. Okay, now we are at the la, because it's really counting. It's really counting. So, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. What triad do we play at the la? What triad do we play at the la? What triad do we play at the la? So again, in the first position, that's where everything sort of starts out. So if you work it out in the first position, the kind of steps that you need, a whole step and a whole step, okay, and then a half step and then a whole step, you realize that every position that you're at, you're going to sort of either have to correct it. That's how it would sound like. Okay? Now, why am I playing it the way I'm playing it right now? Because I have had to correct something here. If I start from the la and I take it a whole step up there and another whole step, you're going to find yourself playing a note that's not on the major scale. Okay, it's so easy to see in C because we're only playing white notes. Okay, so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. So that's a minor. we're going to have to minor that note and bring it down here, and then we'll have that as a minor third, and then we'll end up with the fifth at the top, which is just working perfectly again. So you'd have a minor third and the fifth at the top, fifth at the top. I think I should be singing throughout this teaching. It sort of just makes sense, right? So you have the La, then you have the Do, then a Mi, the La, the Do, and the Mi. I like it so much. La, Do, Mi, because the scale at this point is La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, So, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, Ti, La. Then the chord will be the La, the Do, the Mi, the La, the Do, the Mi. We have one more to go and the scale will be done. I'm about to finish. So we're now at the La, Ti. We need a root position, and the root position there is the T. T is the root position. If we are to count, I keep going back to the root position, the original home position of the scale, because that sort of puts everything together. So that's the Do, Do, Ti, La, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Do. Okay? And we say that at this position, what you need to do is to just count up to the third. So one whole step, and then whole step. Okay? Do, skip a note, Re, skip a note, Mi. Okay? That's the major third. Now, how about if we're starting from the Ti? Would have to skip a note from there, and then now already we are playing notes that are not on the scale, on our scale. So Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti. So you have a T right there. Okay, now instead of playing that note, it's not sounding right on our scale. We're going to have to minor it. So Ti, Do, Re, and now we're going to have to play a minor third right there. Okay, a minor third. If I'm taking back to the root position, okay, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Ti, La, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, Do, Mi, So, the root, the third, the fifth, and that's going to be root, skip a note, the Re, skip a note, then half step, then whole step. Okay, so we need like one whole, a half, and a whole to get to your fifth. Okay, now in the seventh position, because it's going root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, which is also our T note. If we're to skip a note and skip a note, hey, those are not good notes. They are not on our scale. So you'd have to minor it. So it's going to be Ti, Do, Re. Okay? And if we were to go all the way to the fifth, it would end up on that note up there. Hey, hey. So it's very interesting that on the seventh, you have two notes that are not right. Okay? Even though you are counting half steps, go back to the root position, because this is like the start of everything. And you count half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You count 7 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're going to end up on that note. So in other words, at the 7th position, we find ourselves playing a diminished chord. Like a diminished chord is minor chord, you're going down once. Diminished chord, you're going down twice. But the feeling is like you're being diminished. Don't be diminished in this life. Pause for laughter. All right. So in other words, on this interesting chord, this is the most interesting chord, because now we're no longer playing just the 5th, we are playing the diminished 5th chord. 5th note, okay? Which is going to be the sol, the ti, and the re. Okay? So, sol, ti. No, did I say re? That should be a fa. I honestly wrote the wrong things. The sol, ti, re was up there. It's the T. Okay, let me just write it. I'm going to cross this so that I can start from the T. It wasn't the sol. The T, the re, and the fa. The notes are almost the same. The T, the re, and the fa. T, re, fa. Sounds fa. Okay. So once again, what are our diatonic triads along the major scale? I'm just going to play them for you. You can always rewind back and see where we were. So, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is the scale we are playing. So you have the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, mi, sol, re, fa, la, mi, sol, ti, fa, la, do, sol, ti, re, la, do, mi, ti, re, fa, do, mi, sol. At the top, okay? Those are the 7 diatonic triads along the major scale. So you would ask me, am I playing a song? Not yet. But if we were to play a song from this point, I would ask you, what note are you playing? Is it the do note? If you're singing, I you ever had those people who say, can you please sing, hi? That's what I was doing earlier. So if you were to sing a song, I would ask you, what note are you singing? And say, I was going back home. I just played the do, re, mi, re, do. And that's how to harmonize quickly, real quick. I'll start from there. As the most basic way of playing the chord, I'll start exactly at that point. I was going back home. I was going back home after this recording. Then I met my good friend. I was going back home. Then I met my good friend. I just wrote a good song. So that's how you'd start harmonizing or playing the chords along the song. Why? Because you know the note that they are singing, and you know the diatonic triad, the triad that goes alongside the note they're singing. That's like the beginning of chords. This is like the skeleton of skeletons, like the inner working of chords. Yeah, if you strip it all down, it comes to this. 1 is know your major scale. 2 is know the 4 types. We haven't used 1, which is the augmented. It comes in another place. But you need to know the 4 types of diatonic triads. The major triad, the minor triad, the augmented triad, and the diminished triad. And then you need to know the diatonic triads that you play along the major scale. Once you know these three things and make it a holistic thing, you begin to notice many things. For example, there are three types of major triads, there are three types of minor triads, and there's one diminished triad when it comes to the major scale. And that's the beginning. You need to know this is like everything about, you know, the basics of chords and how to lay them out, how to work them out, how to find them out. And you know that you notice that if you're teaching a choir, this is the information you'll need, because where the sopranos are, you'll quickly notice, the altos need to be here, because it's a triad. It's a triad. So just take them down steps to find the tenor, and boom, you have music happening around you. God bless you so much. And do give us some comments, give us some feedback right down there in the comment section. We'll be with you as we go home to our place home. This has been Worship Harvest Worship Resources. God bless you so much.